the 16th annual New York City Equal Pay Day Rally. Yay! I'm Bev Neufeld, president of PowHerNY York, a network of over 100 organizations working collectively to advance economic equality for all people who identify as women. I am so proud to be here today with our co-sponsors of this rally, and they have been co-sponsors for years, and that is the New York City Women's Caucus. 2 years ago, New York City shut down right before Equal Pay Day. And I think it's amazing that we're here today, the first rally on the steps of City Hall since COVID, since we've come back into session, right? So what I have to say is, we are back. Right. I know this is a celebration and we have a lot of people to talk, but I do want to take a moment to say we should remember who we're here for. 2 years ago started the pandemic, and it was the most difficult and painful time. This is a moment to savor. It's a moment also to remember the pain and the suffering of all the people in New York, but especially women. Especially women, because they were essential to the battle for winning COVID. They were essential to keep families going, businesses going, governments running, and we need to use that energy, that pain, to forward what we're trying to do today, which is to create an equitable recovery for New York women. So that means that today we talk about equal pay. Something else has changed too, and that is the New York City Council. A little something. So I will turn this over now to Council Member Amanda Farias. Is that close? Good. Who, I tell you, if it wasn't for her energy and commitment to this, we wouldn't be here today on the steps of City Hall. So thank you so much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What a great day to be together in community. In 2 years, this is the first rally on the steps of City Hall, and for what a great reason, to demand equal pay for equal work for women. That's right. Today is the symbolic day when full-time working women's wages would be the equal of wages of men in the same position. That's right, women had to work in the same position with the same qualifications for the same amount of work, but it takes them way more time to get the same rate of pay. Asian women had to work until February of the following year, white women until today, black women had to work until August, and Native and Latinx women have to work all the way into November. The loss of income, that ain't right. The loss of income based on gender and racial discrimination is a tremendous setback, not only for women's individual economic prosperity, but for the overall recovery of this city. Our society is dependent upon women continuing to provide their essential services. Yet, we as women are not given the essential services we require. Our labor as women of color is worth more than 64 or 56 cents for every dollar. This city could not function without the care and leadership we provide. So it is about damn time our government sees and changes that. We can't wait until August to talk about Black or Latinx women, and that is why we must take bold action to create lasting change in the future. Thank you to all my colleagues in city and state level for joining us here today. I don't want to take up too much time. We know women deserve equal pay, and we're going to demand it today. What do we want?
Equal pay.
When do we want it?
Now.
And with that, I would like to then announce that I'm happy to introduce Speaker Adrienne Adams, who is not only our first Black female speaker, but also running the show here in a predominantly woman of color, mostly woman of color city council. And we're so glad that she joined us here today. So with that, Speaker Adrienne Adams.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Farias. As you lead this mighty Women's Caucus, we thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I am so honored to be here with so many powerful women on this National Equal Pay Day. I want to acknowledge some of the amazing leaders and colleagues who are here today, including our co-chair, Councilmember Amanda Farias, and in her absence, Councilmember Farrah Lewis, the co-chairs once again of this mighty Women's Caucus. We are also joined by our former colleague, and we welcome her home to City Hall, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. And we welcome my colleagues, Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez, Councilmember Rita Joseph, Councilmember ALTHEA Stevens, hi ANNABEL Palmer, Councilmember Carmen de la Rosa, Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse, Councilmember Sandy Nurse, Councilmember Crystal Hudson, Councilmember Pirina Sanchez, Councilmember GAIL BREWER. Those are your representatives in City Council in the first majority women City Council ever in the history of New York City. I also want to acknowledge our former council member, Helen Rosenthal. Welcome home, Helen. And our current chair and commissioner of New York City Commission on Human Rights. Welcome home, Annabelle. Welcome home, Annabelle Palma. We're also joined today by CW Local 1180 President Gloria Middleton. And of course, I'd like to thank our wonderful advocates and champions who have been here and led us to this 16th commemoration, including Beverly NEUFELD, President of PowHerNY New York, and Jessica Haller, Executive Director of 21 in 21. So I just want everyone to just take a moment and just look around, take it all in, and take in the history that we are witnessing here today. Look at them. And the men that get it. So, for the first time, we have a women majority city council led by the first Black woman speaker standing on the City Hall steps pushing for pay equity on National Equal Pay Day. On a beautiful day. On a beautiful day. Last year, the Women's Caucus made up less than 1/3 of the entire New York City Council. But today, we are the majority. And we represent everyone. We represent all of the women, the mothers, the grandmothers, and the young girls who make up the majority of New York City as well. We just had a baby the other day. Congratulations, Councilmember Julie Wan. We had a baby.
And she came to the hearing today.
She came to the hearing today. That's what we do. That's how women lead.
There she was.
I never lose sight of what it means to have women in leadership and what a difference it makes for the future of our city. I just want to know, had she been a man, you think she would have been? I'm just saying. Random thoughts. I'm so grateful that right now the women of the City Council are leading our city through this recovery and beyond. Thinking about where we were just a year ago, we've made progress, and that should be celebrated. But we have much more work to do. Equity is one of the priorities for me as speaker, and nowhere is this more of an issue than in the pay gap between women and men. Here in New York, for every dollar a man makes, women earn an average of 85 cents. The disparity, though, is much wider for women of color. Black women in New York earn an average of 64 cents, and Latinas make 56 cents for every dollar that a man makes. It's 2022, people. And this is completely unacceptable. We need to close the pay gap once and for all. We will not stop raising our voices and making policy changes until we erase this wage gap, and we will keep working to achieve the equity in pay that all women so rightly deserve. So once again, I thank every single elected official advocate and leader who is here today on National Equal Pay Day. Thank you to our mighty Women's Caucus and our co-chairs especially for bringing us all together, and the advocates once again who work tirelessly on this issue. Now let's get back to work. Thank you all.
I'm so excited to call up next Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a beautiful day that we are blessed with here to stand together in solidarity to demand equal pay for equal work. It is time for the city of New York to pay us what they owe us, right? And I am truly honored to stand here, to be back at City Hall, to stand on the steps as the Bronx Borough President, as someone who made history on January 1st as the first ever African American and female elected Bronx Borough President. I am so proud. I am so proud of the incredible progress that women have made across the city of New York. We continue to shatter the glass ceiling and show all New Yorkers what we are all about. There is nothing worse than a woman with a made-up mind, determined and committed and dedicated to the cause to make sure that we are making a difference for such a time as this. I am grateful for the incredible collaboration of PowHer New York. I want to say thank you to Bev NEUFELD and to the entire team at PowHer New York, to all of our advocates. Certainly want to shout out CWA Local 1180. CWA Local 1180 has been on the grounds, in the trenches, making sure that we fight for pay equity every single day. I am honored to be here with our distinguished Speaker of the City Council, my sister ADRIENNE Adams. God bless you, my sister. And to our co-chairs, I want to recognize Chair Amanda Farias and Chair Farrah Lewis and all of the mighty, mighty members of the New York City Council Women's Caucus. We are here for such a time as this. And we know 16 years ago when we started Equal Pay Day, it was to recognize the disparities that continue to exist. Women are on the front lines every day as first responders, essential workers, frontline staff. We are the social workers, the guidance counselors, the police officers, the school nurses. We are the school crossing guards. We are out there every single day. And all we are asking is for fairness and equity in the system. We want equal pay for equal work. We shouldn't have to stand at press conferences to demand our fair share. But we are asking, we are demanding that this city recognizes our value and our worth so that we can work in dignity with respect, just like everyone else has gotten. And when you think about the disparities, the disproportionate impact on African American women, Latinx women, Latina women, Asian American and Native American women, it is truly unacceptable. This ain't right. This ain't right that we have to be here. And it certainly speaks to the work that has been done by CWA Local 1180, who championed Local Law 18. Want to recognize that in 2018, not only did we say we want equal pay, but we said we're taking it to the courts. And we went and we fought in the court, and guess what, y'all? We won. We won. Local Law 18, led by the City Council in conjunction with CWA Local 80, we were given information to open the books, to look at the 300,000 plus city workers, to say, we want to make sure that there's equity in the system. Women are coming to the table. We're taking civil service exams. We're doing everything that we are being asked to do and more, excelling, and yet we're not being paid. And so since the passage and the enactment of Local Law 18, we've had other measures introduced in the City Council. And I want to thank PowHer and all the other organizations, 21 and 21, shout out to Jessica Haller, and really everybody, because we are not only pushing, but we're going to continue to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until these press conferences are no longer necessary. And so we do this work in honor of not ourselves, but the next generation of leaders. Our young ladies and the next generation of leaders in this city need to look at us and see themselves. As we shatter the glass ceiling, as we create the footprints for young ladies to follow, we want their journey to be easier than ours. That's why we do this work. And so I'm proud to work with my colleagues in government, my sisters. I'm proud as your Bronx Borough President to add my voice to this growing collective of strong, powerful, influential voices of women that represent the city of New York. And at the end of the day, we will not stop until we get what? Equal pay. God bless you all. Thank you, guys.
That's right, Vanessa.
Bringing up here Crystal Hudson.
No problem. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilmember Crystal Hudson from Brooklyn. Thank you. I'm going to go off script a little bit because for me, this isn't about equal pay for equal work. We know that women work harder, we work longer because we live longer, and we look better doing it. It's incomprehensible that we have to continue to come out here to accept incremental wins only to have to come back and ask for more year after year. We know how to solve these issues. We have the tools. We have to prevent this gap from widening, to put money in the hands of some of the most economically vulnerable New Yorkers, immigrant women and women of color. We have to invest in programs like universal child care that seek to address the root causes of these injustices, not just the symptoms. It's more than just equal pay. It's about strengthening our communities, our families, and ensuring every single New Yorker can live with dignity. Our recovery from the pandemic is the perfect opportunity to act urgently, to flip the script, to challenge the status quo, and make sure our recovery is not only comprehensive, but a permanent fixture in our fight for racial, gender, economic, and labor justice. Thank you.
On December 15th, we passed a New York City law that I want our Commissioner, ANNABEL PALMA, to talk a little bit about, because she's writing the regulations for it, right? So thank you.
Hi, everyone. What do we want?
Equal pay.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Equal pay.
When do we want it?
Now.
It is an honor and a privilege, but it's also electrifying to be here surrounded by so many powerful elected officials, women in government, women who simply get it, right? You heard from my previous colleagues and the new council members who are now in office about how long and what it took to get us to where we are. So it is truly amazing to be here. And we all know that the Commission is the local civil rights enforcement agency that enforces the New York City human rights law, one of the broadest, most protective, anti-discrimination and anti-harassment laws in the country, with 27 protected categories, and which covers housing, employment, and public accommodations. The human rights law seeks to eliminate barriers to equity, like the ones that we're talking about today, and to strengthen the dignity and equality for all New Yorkers. By statute, the Commission has two main functions. First, the Commission's Law Enforcement Bureau enforces the city human rights law, the law that we're going to, the laws that protect us, like the ones that we're getting ready to write guidelines on. We do that by investigating complaints of discrimination from the public, as well as investigating and doing actual testing, going out to see if the law is being adhered to. The second, through the Community Relations Bureau, the Commission works to raise awareness of all New Yorkers' rights and obligations of businesses, employers, housing providers under the city human rights law, working with community partners and sister agencies and our local elected leaders. Pay equity is something that we wholeheartedly support. The city human rights law already contains several provisions that protect against unequal treatment in the terms of conditions of employment, including compensation. The New York City human rights law was expanded in 2017 to ban inquiries into salary history for the purpose of encouraging pay equity across the city. The law prohibits an employer from inquiring about an applicant's salary. More recently, our law was amended to require employers to include salary ranges in job posting, and I know that that was led by our good friend and former colleague HELEN Rosenthal. That law will go into effect May 15th. These are changes in the law that can promote pay equity, but changes in the workplace culture, transparency require broader shifts as well. In 2019, the Commission convened a public hearing on pay equity, working with the Commission on Gender Equity, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protections, among others. These hearings and other work illustrate the federal, state, and local legislative and policy changes that are needed to foster fairness and equity. We are thrilled to play a role in that change through our enforcement work, policy initiatives, and community outreach in order to promote equity. We are at a unique time for our city. Just this week, the city expanded the rights of domestic workers. They are now on the protected class as were. Workers who have been long deprived of basic protections in their employment. The human rights law now protects them from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation at work. And we will be educating the public on these laws, working with our partners in the community, working with elected officials, working with the Speaker of our City Council, and this administration is committing to continuing to look for opportunities to advance equity for all New Yorkers across this city. So we thank you all for the work that you have done, and will continue to do to make this stronger and make us stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. That law that the Commissioner just talked about, which will require all employers to list salary ranges on all postings for jobs in New York City, that law was forwarded by former council member HELEN Rosenthal. And leadership is so important. We're here today because of the leadership here. But Helen, you really moved that piece along.
Couldn't have done it without you.
At the end of the day, at the end of the year. Thank you.
Yeah, I've moved into my new role as co-chair of the fan club of these women behind me. Jeez, Speaker Adams, you're killing it. Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, my goodness, when I started, we just sat across the room from each other. I'm so proud of this group of women. And they have been talking about things that are incredibly important. Dignity, equity, equal pay for equal work, the things that motivate you to get out of bed in the morning and go get your work done in such a fashion so you can come home and be with your family, not have a second job. But for those of you who haven't been able to hear those words, and they don't necessarily resonate for you, I want to mention one other thing. By not paying women equal to their male counterparts, we have taken out of the economy $33.5 billion in New York State. And let's just do some quick mental math and say that's $20 billion in New York City. $20 billion in New York City that we could invest in our local bodegas, because that's what the women do, is they go out and shop for their families. That we could invest in daycare and after school, because that's what the women do. They need to make sure their kids are taken care of and are nurtured. That's what we would be generating and pushing back into the economy, except for the fact that no one's opened their eyes and demanded that we have equal pay. Well, I'm here to tell you, as co-chair of the Women's Caucus fan club, that this city council is going to get it frickin' done. And I'm here to cheer them on. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. We're calling, now we start the speed round.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody? Speed round, lightning round now. Okay. This is Gloria Middleton, President of CWA Local 1180.
we want?
Equal pay.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Equal pay.
And when do we want it?
Now.
Today, thanks to the work being done in the New York City Council and now in the New York State Legislature with the Salary Range Transparency Bill, women will have a fighting chance, one that we have deserved for decades when it comes to competing against men for a job. The proposed state legislation mimics the City Council bill that requires all employers to include both the minimum and maximum salaries in job postings, and even takes it a few steps further by also mandating the inclusion of additional compensation in job postings. Thanks to the support of our legislators, and particularly our female leaders, women no longer will have to wonder what the salary could be for a job, spend hours deliberating over compensation. Salaries should not be based on gender, or race, or religion, or anything for that matter that is irrelevant to the performance of a particular job. The legislation action taken by the former City Council to make sure Local Law 18 of 2019 came to fruition enhances the work Local 1180 has done for years in New York City. It requires the city to track and disclose the wages of all city employees, including statistics by race and gender, so we can call to task our leaders who think that in the year 2022, they can still offer unscrupulous salaries based on gender. We know the current City Council leadership will continue to work with CWA Local 1180 and all others on pay equity, especially now with our first ever female majority council. By having the yearly results of this Local Law 18 report and the data analysis that comes with it, only then can we as unions of predominantly female and minority memberships as advocacy groups like PowHerNY and as other women's rights groups stand together in solidarity and say, time's up, New York. We're calling you out. Thank you.
So while we're on a roll, and another union leader, Rebecca Damon, SAG-AFTRA.
Hi there. Hello. Are we union strong here?
Yes.
Are we union strong here?
Yes.
So my name is Rebecca Damon, and I'm the executive director of SAG-AFTRA New York. SAG-AFTRA New York is a labor union, and I am so proud to be here today with the great CWA 1180. CWA 1180. These women have blazed a trail, and it is an honor to stand with them any day of the week, but most especially here on the steps of City Hall for the first time in 2 years. It's also an honor to be here with Bev NEUFELD, Mary Luke, and PowHerNY York. This is an organization of women that is statewide, that does amazing things advancing the cause of women. And what better place to be than with this Women's Caucus on this amazingly historic day. This Women's Caucus is going to be the change that we have hoped for since we were young women. We are so excited as people for what is possible because of that. So what leads to progress? It is an accelerator moment. And an accelerator moment is a moment where things are possible that you only imagined could be true. It is that accelerator that can change the conversation. I have come here year after year. I've stood in the middle of the pandemic in the middle of the park for Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And you know what? I like coming to City Hall, but I would like to come to City Hall to say hello to these fabulous councilwomen, not to stand here with them saying that this is what we must do. We will not beg, we will not borrow, but we know that this tumultuous period can be the change that we want to see. It is that time. We have been under a great stress test for our society. It has not only shown the deep flaws, but it has exacerbated others. More women have left the workforce than the pandemic than ever before. So now on Equal Pay Day, we are asking for bold action. No more small steps, bold action. And I know that these women are the women to get it done. whether it's the passage of the transparency law or joining a union, which, by the way, is a great equalizer in equal pay. It is a world in which the pay gap is smaller. It's actually 40% less for women that are in a union for the women that are not. So unions are good, but let's fix the whole issue in society. Union contracts assure that basis, but we can do more. So here on New York, this is the time to act. Let's seize the moment. Let's change our opportunities. Let's choose to accelerate. Let's make this real change. What do we want?
Equal pay.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Equal pay.
When do we want it?
Now.
Thank you.
So y'all keep hearing about this fantastic, amazing women's caucus. So I'm going to bring some of these members up. The first member I'd like to call up is Council Member Carmen de la Rosa.
Good afternoon. So I'm proud to serve in this majority women's conference. And I have to say that today, it feels real and it feels good. I want to thank our speaker for her leadership and our co-chairs for their leadership. You know, the speaker gave me the privilege of chairing the Civil Service and Labor Committee. And I want to say that it means a lot to me because I believe in worker justice, but it also means a lot to me because my mom was a union worker. She was a home health aide, a home care worker, right? And I know that because of the union, we were able to have a semblance of a good life, a semblance of a good life. But this week, we've stood in the park, we've stood across the street here, demanding just pay for human service workers, demanding fair pay for home health service workers. And why is that? Because we must protect and reinforce and uplift industries where women lead. That is part of the way that we begin to close the pay gap. I want to thank the previous council for passing laws that shed sunlight on the disease of inequity. When we look at the results of the reports, what do we see? We see that the pay gap begins at an early age. When women are about their 20s and men are about their 20s, they make the same amount of money. But then when women advance to their 30s, the pay gap widens. Why is that? Is it a coincidence? It's because at 30, they believe we'll already have children. And so because we have children, we have to be on the back burner. When that pay gap begins to widen, it's very hard to catch up, especially when the isms begin to play a role in widening those inequities. Racism, let's call it out. Yes. Right? Ageism, let's call it out. And so as the chair of Civil Service and Labor, we're gonna fortify the laws that the previous council passed to make sure that we're bringing additional sunlight into these gaps so that we can build the city that our daughters can be proud of. Like the borough president said, that our struggles are not their struggles. And so I'm proud to stand here today with these fierce body of women with labor. Is labor in the house?
Yeah.
Labor deserves credit because they blazed the trail in order for the courts to recognize this struggle and actually act upon it. And so this is a new day, this is a new council, and I'm looking forward to leading with this mighty, mighty caucus. Thank you so much.
I'd now like to call up Councilmember ALTHEA Stevens.
Hi, family. Hey. Peace, family. I mean, everything that needed to be said has already been said. So I'm going to make it real quick. Give us our money. like, give us our money. I mean, it's. I think, let's take it here. It's despicable in 2021 that women are still not being paid what we owe. Like, I can't fathom this. But for me, we're going to continue to show them what we're made of. They didn't think that there would be a majority woman council, but what is it now? They did not think that we would have a woman speaker, but what do we have? Because we continue to show up and we do the work. So we don't even need to ask. We are demanding, and we're gonna make it happen. Why? Because we are women in leadership. We're gonna keep kicking in the doors and shattering these glass ceilings because that's what we do. We do it all. We go home and get the bacon and we fry it up in a pan. We take care of the kids. We take care of the men. We take care of everyone. And we're gonna keep doing the work. And so I'm here to stand with everyone here today. It is not about asking quietly and nice. We are demanding, and we're stepping in our positions of leadership, and we're going to make sure it's happening. The ladies before us set the blueprint. They already did the work. So now it's time for us to continue to take this ball and just continue going and making sure that our daughters and our grandchildren are having everything that they deserve. And we're gonna make it happen because that's what we do, because we're women.
That's what we do.
That is what we do. I'd like to call up Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercedes Narcisse, and prior to election, prior to being a city council, I was working as a registered nurse for over 30 years. Yes. I would never think of turning back the clock and choosing a different career. Nursing is a noble profession. And if I may say so, myself, nurses are the backbone of our healthcare system. I am so proud to say that I am a registered nurse. And since 90% of nursing workforce is female, surely there is no equal issue, right? We're all getting the same. No. Well, let me tell you, according to a recent survey, in my 30 years serving as a registered nurse, I would have made at least $200,000 more in my career if I was a male. Female RNs make 90 cents for every dollar earned by a male nurse, right? At least they make at least $7,300 less than a year. Let me be clear. It is not because they are qualified or better qualified than us. On the contrary, the same survey reported that these male nurses make more money, actually have less education, and less likely to achieve professional certifications. Let me be clear. I'm not here to attack male. I'm not here to attack any male at all. I love male. I am here to say that the equal pay gap is very real, and even in professions dominated by women, it should not exist. We demand pay equally for equal work. That's all we're asking for. While it has narrowed in recent years, it remains immoral in 2022. Immoral. With a female majority-led New York City Council, with a majority female 31 women, we will not let down. We're gonna fight until we get our equal pay. Living this gap hurts not only women, but families across the city. Where are the single mothers? We know that. But I am confident that the 31 women strong, we will do just that. And for change toward the city council, I'm here to say thank you to all the women, females that have been leading the way, that have been pushing, making sure that we get equal pay. CWA, thank you. My speaker and my co-chair that doing this, I got your back, and let's do it. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
I'd now like to call up Councilmember Rita Joseph.
What do we want?
Equal pay.
What do we want? When do you want it?
Now.
What do you want?
Equal pay.
Say it loud so the city can hear you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita Joseph. I am the chair of education, so you know it's personal, because I'm here to see that over the years I've educated so many children to know that my female students will not have matched their male peers. It always pained me, no matter how smart and no matter how driven my girls were, I knew that this world was not ready for them, will not pay them the same as my male students. I have a student named Audley Jean, who's an actor. She has not been able to work. She's been auditioning, while her male counterparts are finding small parts in movies. That pained me. She was my student in 4th grade. So I will continue to stand with the caucus, labor, and all of my partners in this. My 31 women strong. You ladies laid the blueprint. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Vanessa. But we will continue to fight. And education, through education, we will get this done. Thank you.
Now let's call up Councilmember Gail Brewer.
Thank you very much to the caucus and to the labor. And I also want to mention Merble Regan, who's standing over there, who's done the self-sufficiency work to show how much we need to earn if we're going to live in New York City. And it's often way above what we earn, particularly for women. Number two, I've just come from Washington, the National League of Cities. And to the credit of the women here and to the municipal folks around the country, we understand that as we get this infrastructure, hopefully money, we're also going to get childcare. But when we get childcare and when we get wraparound services, guess who's going to be providing them? It's the women. And guess what the problem is? They're not going to get paid enough. They don't get paid enough now. And so I think one of our jobs to finish what others have said, yes, the laws are there, but they're not implemented, and it's not right that the women in human services, which is what drives this country, it really is human services, do not get paid fairly. So I'm here to say that's what we want to focus on, not just today, but with every dollar coming from every other place. And we know within the New York City municipal workforce, the median salary for male employees is $21,600 higher than the median salary for female employees, and that's even with all the work done by the unions and us. So our work is not done. And as we heard earlier, in New York City, the wage gap is 86 cents for women for every dollar earned by a man, and of course the women of color is even worse. I'm also here to say that the wage gap between women overall in New York State is $8,821. So I also want to say the good news is ANNABEL PALMA. We serve together at the city council. I'm just calling her ANNABEL PALMA, just so you know. We love her. Is that this is important, that March 14th with domestic workers in New York are now protected by human rights law. That is a huge victory that I wanted to say we started when I was there to get them work and to get them rights in 2002. So we have a lot of work to do. We have to make sure that we elevate the struggle by raising awareness and making sure our stories are told. Thank you very much.
I'd like to call up Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez.
Hi. Am I the last one?
No, Kieran is after.
Oh, okay.
We're closing with the Bronx.
We're closing with the Bronx. So we'll have this Bronx sister right here, so we'll be super quick. Thank you. Thank you for listening to us. And collectively here, we're ceiling crashers, right? We shattered that beyond. We knocked down these doors of boys' clubs that don't want to see us in office, that still want to try to break us and divide us. But we're stronger than that because we're 31 here, but we still got room to grow. We have the power now, and that what we're looking at each other is the ability to build up even more. So I'm the chair of Consumer and Worker Protection, right? So what we see is that the woman has $1, right? We have the ability to make that dollar even grow. More importantly, when we're in rooms of workplaces, we have abilities to unite and create and join unions. We have the ability to create and build each other up. In these spaces, after we knock down doors, it's not easy for us, it's even harder. They want us to divide. They want us to fight against each other, but we're smarter and better than that. So what I say to that is that, here, this is our moment, women. We're gonna be in these rooms, elevate each other. We're in these rooms, make sure that you're offering the mic to your other women colleagues, that we're being heard every step of the way. Because we're here, and we're gonna stay here, and we're gonna keep on expanding. So get used to it. Thank you.
All right. I'm saying though, if there was a time where these chambers were all male, why can't these chambers be all female, am I right? I'm just saying. So good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank our speaker. I want to thank our co-chairs, Amanda Farias and our other co-chair. And I just want to say one thing. You know, last week I was in a room with 300 high school senior women. And I looked across that sea of black and brown faces from the Bronx, and I saw the future. I saw truth. I saw power. And this council here is power. These labor unions here are power, and we're gonna do this the right way. We're gonna tackle it by industry. We're gonna unionize. We're gonna make sure we got power for our domestic care workers. We're gonna get power for all of our workers, and we're gonna do it one step at a time. But there's a lot of us, so you taking a step, and me taking a step, and you taking a step. We're gonna make great strides in this city council. So thank you so much for hosting this. This is power, and I'm so proud to stand with you, sis.
Woo! Thank you. We're going to call up a couple of advocates at the same time. So come over here, EMERITA, and Mary Lawson here.
Verbal.
Verbal can come up. Mary Lawson, okay.
Verbal.
There's so many issues that combine to make this happen. Oh, there you go, Verbal support member. So, thank you. There are so many issues that combine to create these problems. So, one of them is leadership. So, we're going to go right through.
12 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jessica Haller. I'm Executive Director of 21 and 21. We are an organization that was established to build political power for women in New York City.
And you did.
Woo! And the fact that we're still doing this every year, as everyone says, is absolutely ridiculous because it's 2022. But the fact that we're rallying here now is actually historic with these women that everyone is saying. And the only thing I want to add, it means that this year we're not just going to demand equal pay, but we have the power to achieve it. So thank you all. Thank you. And continue doing the work to build political power for women in New York. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mary Lawson. I am a retired school nursing supervisor. I had District 3 in Manhattan. I know many of the people here, and I've been advocating for school nurses for at least a decade. In case you didn't know, school nurses that are DOH public health nurses who also respond to every public health emergency from 911 to this pandemic, not DOE, DOH, we are assigned as public health nurses to respond to public health emergencies. We are being paid less than DOE nurses doing the same job for over a decade. This is unconscionable and unfair, and our children are suffering because of it. With over 400 DOH, MH school nurse vacancies, instead of the city fixing the problem, they added $69 million to pay contract nurses $90 to $120 an hour. That's how the nurses were in the school this year, not because of fixing the problem that's 10 years old. Enough is enough. We need nurses in schools that care about students, that care about continuity, that have access to the computerized medical record, that are trained for that field, and that are supervised. I'm telling you, contract nurses have none of that. They get a 2-hour virtual training, nobody supervises them, and they don't have access to the student's clinical record. This is unsafe, and it has to stop. We have over 200,000 asthmatics in schools. We have over 2,000 diabetics in schools. DOE is being sued by the American Diabetes Association and 3 families for over 4 years because their students that have diabetes don't get the care that they need. We cannot let this go on, not just for the nurses, but for our school children. We must demand equal pay for equal work now. We're 2 different unions, but we're doing the same job, and actually public health nurses do more. We want more. That's it.
Thank you so much. EMERITA Torres from Community Service Society.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? My name is EMERITA Torres. I'm the Vice President for Policy and Advocacy at the Community Service Society of New York. We work through direct services, policy, and advocacy to power a more equitable city and state, so that's why we're here today. I'm happy to stand with you to fight against the inequities that women face every day in the workplace, equal pay for equal work. For more than half a century, we've recognized this day where the average woman must work to match what her male counterparts make, and I'm tired of it. I'm also tired of it. We know that our economy cannot recover without the vital work of women. Women lose thousands upon thousands of dollars every year, hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetimes, and that's our daughters' lifetimes, our grandmothers' lifetimes, our aunts, etc., because of the gender and the racial wage gap. But we also pay a gender tax. No one talks about this. We pay a gender tax that is the mental and emotional strain that we have to undergo because of this, because of sexism, discrimination, gender and sexual harassment. And on top of this, we've also had to suffer through the pandemic. Women are overrepresented in jobs and industries that pay the least. We are overrepresented in industries hardest hit by the pandemic, the human services sector, as you've heard, hospital, education sectors, and we know that women are also caregivers. So we're working unpaid to raise our children as well. These disparities are even greater for women of color, Black, Latinas, Asian Americans. We must make salaries transparent for all employers in New York State and eliminate the room for discrimination that we've talked about today. But also, we must have universal child care in the city and in the state. Ensuring equal pay and providing universal child care are essential to advancing our values as New Yorkers, especially as we recover from a devastating pandemic and a she-session, not a recession, but it's been a she-session, what we've suffered through. So I'm looking forward to a day where we don't have this day because we actually have equal pay for equal work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're officially at the longest rally we've had for Equal Pay Day, but someone pointed out it's because we have more women leaders. Right? All right, so we're going to wrap it up, but I do want to say that I mentioned PowHer is a group of organizations working collectively. You've heard from some of them already, but I want to point out Zonta New York, UN Women, Legal Momentum was here, WCECA, never can say that. New York Caring Majority, they're fighting for fair pay for care workers, and Human Services Council and others. So it's together that we get this done. It's together that we are going to address equal pay. It's not easy, it's multifaceted. We need affordable childcare. We need fair pay for caregivers, and we need transparency. So if you do one thing today, please write the governor, write the leadership in Albany, and tell them the budget reflects our values. We need to have these things in the budget. We're close, but we're not there yet. So everyone can have impact today by taking action. Thank you to the folks who are here, and thank you to our virtual rally participants who are there online. Online, they're sharing videos from the governor and from the mayor who couldn't be here. And so I think if you'll go online and hear some other wonderful speakers. So that concludes our warmest and longest Equal Pay Day rally. But it doesn't matter, because what do we want?
Equal pay!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Equal pay!
When do we want it?
Now!
All right.